like I said, if you see any new people or casters or anyone interested in the professions field at all, and that should be pretty much everybody, because it encompasses a vast array of not direct combat items. Yes, I will be talking about some GA history stuff. I will go into that, but I will start with the things that I feel that it's important to touch on. Okay, with that said, let's begin with touch spells because it's in my head. Touch spells. So if you are uh, hit by a touch spell, your skin is not going to protect you from it. And that doesn't matter if you're a dragon or a lichen. Your fur is not going to protect you from that spell. Okay, you will if one turns you to stone, you're going to be a statue. Okay, and yes, I will be doing some history. So I just want to go through this stuff that's in my head first. My apologies. Okay. With that said, um, then you may ask, well, what about armor? Actually, your standard armor isn't going to protect you from that. But there are um, some magical ones that will. Um, two of note is glass armor. Glass armor, if you touch, it is not going to turn to stone. If you're wearing glass armor and somebody touches you with a touch spell, you are protected from it. Okay? Glass armor will deflect a touch spell. Exactly, right? If it's resistant to magic, which there are not very many things that are, okay? That's the point here, is that if it's resistant to magic, it's going to protect you from a touch spell. Glass armor, iron silk is another one. Orichalcum being the last of the three. There's really off the okay, no problem. Uh, well, there's really only three off the top of my head that will do that, but and admittedly, none of them are easy to acquire. Um, we, as far as um, orichalcum, it's extremely rare. Not very many people have it. Obviously, red metal that is that deflects magic, and iron silk. Considering how rare iron spiders are, I don't think that there is. Aside from myself, I have an iron spider, but I'm not positive there's anyone that currently has one. I know that uh, there was one person that had one, and I don't believe she's with us. Yes, Drathier. I don't believe she's with us anymore. Uh, I think she said that she gave her spider to her daughter, but I haven't seen her daughter around either. But Iron Spider Silk is also the same way. Now, of course, it's possible to acquire Iron Spider Silk from Cantino or even the deep loot crates in the deep roads. You're not likely to find it on a deep roads run. Possible, Not out of question a possibility, but it does show up in loot crates. And the final one being glass armor. At least, so actually I'm going to expand on that in just a second. Right now, there is someone who has been granted the ability to work with glass, and she's a dragon, which helps if she's a fire breather. And so she actually, I don't know if she has done anything with that yet. I don't think that she realizes the rarity or the potential awesomeness of glass blowing. Now, we had come up with a much, much better word than glass blowers a couple months ago. Niff had thrown it out there. It's escaping me right now um, because glass blower just doesn't sound all that cool, does it? It just doesn't, in my personal opinion, of course. Uh, so I'll remember in a little bit, I'm sure it'll come to me. But anyway, with that said, there are a varieties types of glass that can be crafted. From your normal standard type, moving up to goblin, gnomish, dwarven, elven, and then dragon glass. Okay. Now, dragon glass is perfectly clear. All the rest of them have a tint. Elven glass has one of three tints, depending on which direction it's what it's mixed with. And elven glass can be mixed with mithril, and then it will have a frosted look. Elven glass can be mixed with adamantine, then it's going to be tinted like like tinted windows. It's going to be kind of still see-through but black. And then elven glass that is mixed with orichalcum is going to have a red tint, like rose-colored glasses. Okay? And that elven glass is also pretty pretty decent. Dragon glass is the top tier in that venue. But both dragon glass and elven glass you can use to make weapons and armor. Lower than that, you do are is dwarven glass, gnomish glass, and goblin glass. Probably don't want to make armor out of any of those, but they make excellent windows and even really strong windows because goblin glass, which is the lowest of those three, is lead is used to tint it. Okay, so it's really tough. Okay, I'm not sure it's tough enough to wear armor. I I wouldn't recommend it. But it is tough glass. It's not just gonna shatter. And then directly above that is gnomish, which has silver inside of it. Okay, it's silver tinted, silver mixed in. Okay, it's also I wouldn't recommend making armor out of it, but it is very very tough, and so it works for a lot of things. And above that would be dwarven. Dwarven glass is the type that the dwarves use to uh, put in their locomotives, tanks, so that they can see out of them well. So it's pretty tough glass too. And it has it's copper is mixed in with it. Now, all of these tinted ones that I'm talking about, usually you don't see the tint from the front. Yeah, you can to a degree, right? But mostly it's from the side. If you've ever picked up a window, okay, you go down to Nazi Lobby or uh, Lowe's or any place that sells glass. From the side, you see it has a green tint or a blue tint, and that's because of what it's mixed in with. From the front, you pretty much don't see that, do you? No. And that's how the other glasses are going to be. You know, you're really not going to see that tint all that much except from the side, okay? Because the way it's designed, right? With that said, sometimes you will run across chests in the deep roads that have glass in them. Glass, little dragon tears is what I call them, okay? And if those dragon tears are perfectly clear, it's dragon glass, okay? If they're perfectly black, it's obsidian, which is volcanic glass, regular volcanic glass, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. If it's tinted, it's probably dark element, which would mean it's mixed with adamantine. If it's red, okay, that means it's tinted with orichalcum, okay? Now, what race that might have done that, people are not quite certain on that one. You know, there's some theories. And then, but you know it's an elf because it's all in glass. And if it's frosted, then you know it's high elven. Okay, copper, silver. Okay, you know, as you know, goes on down the road, as I said. So do keep an eye out because those glass, those have been out for a really long time. So some of you might even have them out. Okay, those have been out for years. It's just that I didn't release uh, the the profession until recently. But you could, some of you might already have, you know, dragon tears in your inventory from having done that. With that said, that profession is open if people are interested. Like I said, there's already one person who has been given a scroll by Cantino that made them instantly level 3 at it. So they can already do it. Uh, level 1 in professions, Bella Joss, welcome. Level 1 in professions is a beginner, your novice, when you're first learning how to do a thing. No matter what it is, whether it's a blacksmith, steel crafter, uh, leather worker, that's how that's how it'll be. Level 2 is apprentice. Okay? And so you're still working on how to do a thing. Okay. Now, when you hit level 3, then you actually can do that profession. Okay. You can do it on your own. You don't need someone's help. Okay. And then level 4, artisan. Okay. That's when you are good enough to do a thing and start making masterwork items. Start getting good. Okay. And it's gaffer, by the way. It's gaffer for the glasswork one. Anyway, so level 4 is when you're master. Pretty much, like all archmages out there, are level 4 um, at artificing. Okay, which is making magic items and stuff. If you are an active role player of artificing, making magic items or making things like that, then level 5. Level 5, you're master. Uh, okay, thank you for asking that question. When you're a gaffer, okay, like all the professions, once you hit level 3, then you have the option to split, okay, into a certain specialization, like a blacksmith, okay. When you're up to level 3, you're a blacksmith, okay. After that, you can shift off and become an armor smith, a swordsmith, or what have you, right? You're specializing in a type of thing that you do. Gaffer is the same way, okay. Gaffer, you're a glass blower all the way up and at level 3. Then you get the options. Okay, I'm gonna specialize in armor. I'm gonna be an armor gaffer, or I'm gonna be a weapons gaffer, or I'm gonna specialize in making windows because people don't have armored windows, and so I want to do that. Hey, whatever's in your head, right? At the point where you specialize, okay, level 3 is when you decide which direction you're going to go. Like in artificing, you can it can split off. One direction is magic. You start making magic items, and then the other direction, you do clockwork or steam power, or because clockwork is gnomish, steam powered is dwarven, and then gas powered, gaslight, what we call it. Gaslight is goblin. Okay. Yes, exactly. If you go on the left side, you're making gadgets. You go on the right side, you're making magic items. Okay, that's for an artificer. Yes, explosive option is definitely goblin because it's gaslight. You know, they focus on using coal and methane, and you know they're the ones who know how to make black powder. Okay, um, that's goblin. Okay, and but again, that's on the left side of artificing is gadgets, like Nif said. That's a good word to put it. You know, gadgeteer. Go gadget. Go gadget. Yeah, that's on the left hand side. Okay, right hand side, they're starting to they're making magic items. Okay, And because I came up with artificing much later than we started, then I grandfathered all guild leads in at level 4 artificer. Okay. And then if they're active at doing it, you know, then you know they can uh, achieve level 5. It brings up another point. Um, on the gadget side of the house, only that race is going to hit level 5 of that. Okay, doesn't mean you can't be a master. You can hit level 4, but only that race is going to be is going to level 5 that. Like the dwarven type, only the dwarves are going to hit level 5 of dwarven gadgets. Does not mean a human or an elf or whatever can't hit level 4. So you can be awesome, okay? You're just not going to max it out, okay? Because that is a racial benefit that they possess, okay? So anyone who's going the gadget side of the house, I still encourage you to do it. Oh, let me, and because I'm mentioning that, let me throw this one out there. On the gadget side of the house, there's also crystals, okay? And crystals is an ancient tech that is still being explored, and that has no uh, racial limits. So if you go on the crystal side of the house, no matter what race you are, you can still hit 5. Okay, does that make sense with everybody? Okay. I think Michael crashed, and I wanted to check with him and see. I know that he's working on artificing, so someone, if oh, there you are. Okay, I can't see everyone. My apologies. So wanted to make sure that you got that one too, because your rogue lead, you definitely uh, gadgeteer is definitely something that would work in your favor, you know. And so I know that you're working on that. I don't know which direction you're going, but you can hit uh, 4 in any of them, and then 5 crystals if you want to go. Which brings up another point. All right, just because you have chosen one direction doesn't mean you can't work on any of the others. But uh, you cannot become master at at any of the others. Okay. So once you pick a direction, that's the direction you've gone. Doesn't mean that you can't do stuff in the other ones. It just means you cannot master it. Does that make sense? You know, like say you're a gaffer, all right, and you have chosen to be a window maker, all right. That does not mean you can't make weapons and armor. It just means that you cannot make masterwork weapons and armor. You could make it good enough to sell, okay, make them good enough for people to use, but they're not going to be masterwork, okay. And that same thing is for jewel crafting, leather working, leather working. Let's use that. Let's just use that one for example. You're a leather worker. You get up there to level 3, and you get the option to split. You know, it's like, all right, I get to specialize now. All right, I'm going to specialize in dragon scale. Okay, so I can make dragon scale armor. Okay, and that does not mean that you cannot do any of the other types of leather there are, but that just means you're not going to master it. Okay, there are a variety of bark types. Okay, from some of the special trees in the deep roads, and they make excellent armor. Some of them fireproof. Okay, and and that doesn't mean that you can't work with those. It just means you are not going to master it. Okay, does all that make sense? Yes, woodworking does have an adventure application. You know, uh, bows, staves, and armor. You know, if you get the wood down from the deep roads, some of those special trees, Jalil Thorne has a full list of all the special trees and what color they are, what they look like, and what the properties are. And if you choose one direction, you want to be a armor smith. That doesn't mean you can't make staves or spears or what have you. The halves for spears, anyway. But you will not master them. Okay, that's how professions run. That you pick a specialization. Okay, that's artificing and all gaffing, all of the above. By the way, whoever the dragon gaffer is, I cannot remember her name. I know she's a dragon. Um, the fact that she is a dragon, if she's fire breathing, that already gives her an advantage, right? Because she's got dragon fire. You know, it gives you the ability to control your burn. I cannot think of a better gaffer than a fire breathing dragon. You are your own forge. You know, exactly. So I wanted to touch on both of those things. Yes, Magister Apprentice Evolve. No, not all dragons breathe fire. That is correct. I don't know if she's a fire breather. Um, I was just throwing that out there. That'd be the perfect gaffer. I don't know if she is. I didn't ask. In fact, you know, we'll have to check with Cantino on who it is. You know, because depending on your scale color, that's going to depict what you breathe. Okay, Jilla Nine Tails over here. Okay, you know, she breathes acid. Okay, no, black breathes acid. Okay, so that would not necessarily help as a gaffer. Okay, um, reds, golds, uh, and shadow breathe fire. Shadow breathes green flame, but it's still fire. You know, and then deep breeds acid rain. So yeah, it does. I'm not sure what color she is. I didn't, you know, because that will help. Anyway, actually, that goes right back to the original point. Is if you have glass armor or iron spider silk or orichalcum, then if someone hits you with a touch spell, that's going to protect you from it. Okay? I guess that went full circle, didn't it? All right. So, um, any questions on any of those things that I just talked about? I could actually talk about professions for a long time. There's so many aspects of it. But I did say that I was going to talk about GA history today, and so I shall. But I will answer any questions about anything I've discussed so far. Okay, none. Everybody's cool. Everybody understands about Gaffer, and they understand about specializations, going which direction and all that jazz, right? Everybody's cool with that. All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and move on to GA history. So we'll go pretty far back, right? And we'll go back to to Nargothrond, okay? Nargothrond was a wizard that worked with Valshar's Coyote's family, okay? Before she was born, okay? And he was, what's the best way to put it? Not satisfied, yeah, with his position. He wanted more power, okay? And so he eventually got it. He started, amassing power through the dark arts, and he eventually, through that, became an archduke and started, the making vies for, planar control in other places. And that also meant he turned on his elven uh, patrons, which by this time would have been Valshar's Kyoto's father. And he, her father, knew that the amount of power coming against him was massive. Okay, so he enlisted the dragons and uh, and other available races that would help, okay, in this battle against Nargothrond, who was now what would technically be called a devil, okay, if you want to use that term. I generally prefer the term infernal because I try to stay away from biblical terms. So he was now an infernal, archduke level, okay, and so he amassed an army of orcs, ogres, giants, other infernals, lesser infernals, and attacked Silvara. All right. Now, under that attack, Silvara was inevitably going to crumble. But her father, who I believe is Atreyu, that's loose translation of his name anyway, uh, was able to get the dragons and many of the elven varieties, dark elves, wood elves, sylvan elves, gray elves, dwarves, to assist in fighting against this dark force that was coming. Okay. By this time, you know, it the both armies were massive. Okay. The ultimately this great alliance, the first great alliance, did succeed in uh, in their mission. Okay, a lot of devastation, a lot of life changing, but ultimately Silvara still stood. Okay, after that event, okay, um, Nargothrond did disappear during that event. Many people don't know exactly what happened. It's not exactly documented what happened. Some say he got killed. Some say he got banished. Some say he decided that, hey, you know what? I'm gonna let all my people die. It's all good. I'll come back later. But see, the thing is, he did. Okay. So hundreds of years later, after all the humans and orcs and everybody else, yep, uh, had all forgotten. Okay. But the elves did not forget. Okay. Uh, because elves live a long time, right? Everybody else is already down. Okay. And all of that stuff had faded into history because it had happened to their grandfather's grandfather's grandfather. But that's that's not the case with elves or dragons. And so he came back and started over. He came back and started over, began amassing force again. All right. Now, remember, his idea is to take over the world, enslave the universe, slave the planet. But you got to start somewhere, right? Well, in the original one, he decided to attack Silvara directly. Okay, but because he was fended off, he decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to let all my people die. It's all good. I'll come back later. But see, the thing is, he did. Okay, so hundreds of years later, after all the humans and orcs and everybody else, yep, And as Belshazzar's Quixote mentioned, he lost his earthly form, his avatar, and he had to start over. This time he decides not to attack Silvar first. Now he decides to start attacking everywhere else. Okay? And build up to build up to attacking Silvar, which is, of course, what he did. Second here. There we go. Now, yeah, this was pre-GA. Okay, this is all of the stuff that I just mentioned. That's backstory. Okay, that's backstory. Yes, that's the Queen's Diary stuff. Okay, so that all happened before. Now the GA that you now see, this would be this is what would be considered the second Great Alliance. Okay, in the second Great Alliance, and that's where we are now. Valsharis Quixote finds out, because now she's old enough, she's wielding her father's sword, that Nargothrond is rising again. Okay, and so she sets out to reform the Great Alliance. One of the things she does is she goes to the magician, who is in who's in what would be considered Egypt nowadays, and she goes to him and says, "Hey, you know what? This is going on. The super bad guy's showing up. You know, can you come help? I need someone to round up the Dark Elves because they're all separate factions fighting against each other. I need someone with the gravitas to be able to unite them and help me." So the magician says, "Yeah, I'll do that." And so he sets off and starts uniting the Dark Elves. And then she goes to the dragons and basically makes the same play to the dragon regent at that time. Okay, so now she has the dragons and the Dark Elves to help her. Now, Lord Virtanen decides to not just unite the Dark Elves, but starts going to all of all of the other realms too, and starts pulling in all the elven types and dwarves and gnomes. Starts reminding the deep dwarves of having been having been mind slaved, and so they join the force as well. And as Nargothrond's forces start devastating all of the other realms in the world, okay, refugees from all of these places start moving towards Silvara. because that's a safe place. And even if not, they don't even know why they're doing it, okay? They gravitate towards Silvara and its surrounding realms, because this place has not been attacked and destroyed anyway, has not been attacked and destroyed by Nargothrond and his forces. So refugees from every place, vampires, dragons, centaurs, satyrs, humans, you name it, demons and devils even, celestials. Trolls, yes. There are trolls on both sides, okay? And ogres and giants. But those that did not succumb to the yoke of Nargothrond come to survive. That's right. They they do not want to. And anyone who does not want to be enslaved, come here, okay, to fight against Nargothrond. Okay. Now, because of the variety of races, they do invariably, somewhat separate and do occasionally fight against each other. And even some on the shadow side do succumb to Nargothrond occasionally. Okay? But overall, overall, they still they want to be free of his yoke. Some of them do succumb. Okay? And so there is often conflict between the light and the shadow in that regard. Okay? And as this is going on, in the middle of these Civil War concepts, a tall Maru reappears. Now, a tall Maru was apprenticed to the magician at one time, shapeshifted, but still apprenticed, learning to be a mage in this plane of existence. Until one day, his or her uh, desires outshone what she could achieve. And so he or she began attacking the realms also. Now that set a third superpower, for lack of a better word, in the realms, because Atal Maru fought against Nargothrond and the magician, both, which at, at one point actually led Nargothrond and the magician to do something together. They built what's called the Black Gate. Now remember, Nargothrond is still a bad guy, okay? But his desire is to control the world, okay? You can't control the world if everybody's dead, if there's no one in it, okay? So, well, which the magician happens to be a necromancer. But his mission is not to control the world. Nargothrond is, and he is not a necromancer. Nargothrond is an archduke. He's all about enslaving people, and he wants them alive to do that. Okay, so Nargothrond and the magician build a black gate after a battle um, that Atalmaru has waged against the Great Alliance. The conclave and the people, there were massive numbers of people on that battlefield, 50, I think, on that battlefield fighting against Atalmaru and his forces, his or her, I might say. But ultimately, they were pushed back into the abyss, into oblivion where they come from, and the Black Gate was built by both Nargothrond and the magician, which to this day holds that door, holds that portal closed. Okay? Which means that Atalmaru has to come another way. Humans, yes, humans were in all of these events on both sides. Yep, the Black Gate was about, yeah, that's about 8 years ago. 8 years ago was when the Black Gate battle occurred. Okay, and it's been closed since then. You know, so it was not so very recent. You know, it's not like yesterday that the Black Gate was set up. That was 8 years ago. But yes, humans and um, all of the human hybrids were on both sides. Okay. Okay. So yeah, Jilla Rose did not know. Somebody tell her that I do all this stuff in voice. Okay. And yes, the it has a few times. Mhm, a few times people have made attempts to open the Black Gate again, but it's not successful, has not been successful, does not mean that they won't keep trying. Okay? Because the Black Gate holds back the forces of Atal. Now, Nagaroth and Atal will never work together because one's a demon, the other's a devil. And if you do not know this, demons and devils hate each other more than they hate anybody else. Okay? And so the shadows, as I just mentioned, whether they're working for Nargothrond or not, will always fight against the forces of the Tamaru. And despite what most people actually consider, Nargaroth is lawful evil. Okay, he is not chaos. Okay, a Tamaru is chaos, and yes, there are some of the darker folk who prefer chaos over law, but most of them are even smart enough to know that to work for a Tamaru is suicide. It's a bad idea, and it's not just for this single plane, because the way a Tamaru works, you are eternally, even after death, you are still working for a Tamaru forever. Navarath is much the same way in that regard. They both have eternal gratitude requirements. A Tamaru is worse, however, because generally speaking, under Nargaroth's yoke, even though you turn down dead after you die, that can be corrected. Part of that being necromancers and the magician, the magician's apprentice, and a few other necromancers on the on the oppositional side can remove that. Well, welcome back, Joel Rose. And you've missed probably about an hour of class not being able to hear. Okay, so Black Gate. Now, it's all good, you know. It's being recorded so you can hear it later. But Belados Virtanen. Now, in addition to those major events that have occurred, there have also been series of other events that have still gone on. One of which was a ploy by Nargaroth to kidnap Balsharis Quixote and have a devil child. That's called the Queen's roleplay. Because since he couldn't get directly to her, he decided to abduct all of the realm leaders, all the female realm leaders, which almost all realm leaders seem to be female. So he uh, abducted or attempted to abduct every single realm leader because he figured one of them is going to give him a half devil child that he can inhabit and get a new body. Okay, that was his goal because since his body was destroyed during the first Great Alliance, he needed a new body to come back here because every time he's here, he's just a projection. Okay, a temporary projection. So he decided I need a body, and the prophecy indicated it had to come from royal line. It had to be a royal. So he abducted or attempted to abduct all the queens. He was defeated and sent back. Uh, he did succeed in abducting two of the queens, not Valshar's Quixote, or Jewel Paderborn, Princess Paderborn. Neither of them were actually captured, but there were 5 other female realm leaders, not Silvara, um, and he did succeed in getting 2 of them. But before anything untoward occurred, although he did turn one of them, and she became a bad guy, but she did not become with child, and so he was defeated and sent back before that happened. Okay, that was called the 5 Queens. And then after that, we had the Black Flowers. Okay, Black Flowers were a group of necromantic roses. Okay, that were uh, Nargothrond inspired, shall we say. And if you got near any of these flowers, they would kill you and then bring you back as a skeleton to attack all your fellows. Okay? Um, Eventually, the flowers were culled, and the and anybody who had been changed into a skeleton and were brought back to life. And became themselves again. Okay, and yes, very much, much, much later, um, Vark Ort decided to uh, play. He got hold of an old flower somehow that had not been destroyed, which most of them have, but there were. And so he decided to grow a strain of them on his body and use his own flesh as the soil and start a new strain of the black flowers to be planted across the realms. That did not get very far because he was still Black Magister, and the magician knows what the magisters are doing. So he did not get very far with that. And that in order for a success for something like that to happen, it could not be a conclave member. And generally speaking, the conclave members don't uh, turn against the magician. You know, it is bad form, shall we say. That's right. It's not just it is across the board. We are we are many, not one. And that's a good thing. Okay, so we have the black flowers and the queen's role play. There have also been several times where attempts were made to open the Black Gate, one by a ghost pirate, uh, and the Shadows are the ones who stopped him. I think and because again they don't want to be under the yoke of someone else, they still want to still want to be free. Yeah, so, sometimes being free means you get to kill people because you can, okay? But at least you're free to do it, okay? There are several law forces, not the least of which is Pellinor, who is leader of the Paladin troop in Greenhaven, and she is going, and her and hers are going to make every attempt to maintain law and order. But at least it's not on the inside your head level that Nargothrond does, because Nargothrond's degree of law and order is akin to mind control. It's not necessarily mind control because you still can do things on your own. Yeah, it does. That's possible, you know. But in the grand order, the the Black Gate remained closed. Uh, there was when, which brings up another point actually. Where the on the day that the Black Gate was set up, the one of the isles, parts of Silvar, was destroyed. Okay, there was a huge Ranger keep there, and that entire city and that entire island was laid to waste that day. So it's not like Silvar has not had its degree of damage, because it has. But the Black Gate was put in place, and the combined forces of the Great Alliance still won the day. Sometimes prices are high, but eventually it weighs itself out. Let's see. Any questions about anything that we've talked about? I know I haven't brought us all the way up to current. I've just, you know, I still brought it. That's still many years ago that I have brought us up to. And but before I move forward and talk about more current events, I wanted to give you guys any questions, give you a chance to ask any questions that you have about all of those things. The Five Queens, the Black Flowers, Black Gate, Nagaroth, the Tom Baru, any of that stuff so far. Okay. Yes, I know that's a lot. But I know it's a lot, and my apologies. Okay. It doesn't, okay, to answer Molly's question, it does not. Killing the light force does not help against the Black Gate or Nargothrond. But at that time, when the pirate was trying to open the Black Gate, okay, then the there was an inevitable clash because the Black Gate is in on Silvara, and so when the shadows came in, they were in the way. Okay, so it turned out being a three-sided battle. Okay, they did not join together against the pirate, you know, which after that they started working together a little bit better, but sometimes that has not happened. Okay, I'll answer Jalil Ninetail's question. She asked what I see in the future. Okay, well, I see a lot of things in the future. There's still a 5-year gap that I haven't touched, but I will go ahead and touch on the answer to your question. We still have the fallen star to resolve, okay? And the fallen star has could be extremely detrimental or it could be extremely beneficial. I cannot say which direction it's going to go, okay? Because that is not resolved. But the fallen star role play, I do see that coming to a close in the near future, or better or worse, depending on how it rolls out. Um, and the deep roads will continue to be explored, and as they are explored, more events will roll out from them. Because as we know, and something that touches on the last 5 years, is that the deep roads are the old empire, the old dark elven empire that spanned the entire planet under the ground. Most of it was destroyed by Atalmaru's forces, the Illithid and the Metallica, and the mind-slaved deep gnomes and dark dwarfs. When that was the Spider Squid Wars, 1 and 2. Okay? Nargothrond is still out there. Okay? So, as far as the future goes, I predict the return of Nargothrond again because he's still out there. He has never achieved his body, and that's what he wants. He wants to be able to enslave the world. Okay? He wants to enslave the world. You can't enslave the world if you're not there to do it. Okay? So I predict the return of Nargothrond here and there. It does happen. And also Atalmaru is not done. Okay? He or she constantly sends troops through the deep roads because the deep roads are super black. And yes, there's giant forests and light and all kinds of things going on down there. But it's still a good place for Atalmaru to come from. So what do I predict for the future? Nargothrond, Atalmaru, uh, deep roads explorations, and a variety of smaller events that have occurred, like the Purple Rain. For those of you that have been around for a while, for a time, we were plagued for a whole entire year actually. We were plagued by purple rain that uh, made mushrooms that uh, caused people to turn purple, and you know, a variety of other events made that all subjugated because of the purple rain. Okay. Yes, the library here does contain a lot of these storylines, including the Spider Squid Wars. Okay. Did that answer your questions, a little nine tails? Okay. So I touched on the last 5 years. Last 5 years, Atal Illithids, Deep Roads, the Illithids trying to uh, gather the old magic items, the ancient magic items that are still in the Deep Roads, so that they can um, plunge this world into chaos, so the Talmaru can have it. Once a Talmaru has it, she will, or he will merge it with the plane of chaos, and then nothing will exist, because that something that most people don't really realize is that Tom U's ideas, concepts, goals are to send everything back to oblivion, when there was nothing. There was no plane of law. There was no anything. It was just oblivion. You know, there's no gravity, no inertia, no physicality in any way, shape, or form. And that is the goal of Atal Maru. And some of her forces have, they like the fact that they have physical bodies, and they do not want to do that. Okay? But see how that all plays out, you know? That's all for the future. But that is something that has been rolling forward and will continue to roll forward. Um, Metallica are part of these Spider Squid Wars that also that have been a big part of the last 5 years. They are living golems, living steel golems that were created during the Spider Squid Wars, so that the Illithid had stormtroopers to fight against the Dark Elves. And as I said, 90% of the old empire was destroyed, and the Dark Dwarves have rebuilt as much, as they can. And so some of the deep roads, because that's what it's now called, because of the Dark Dwarves, now called the deep roads. Some of it's been rebuilt, and so a lot of old magic has been rediscovered. A lot of old items have been rediscovered, including the fallen star. Okay? And that brings us up to yeah, I probably skipped a lot of stuff. I know I have. But that brings us up to more current. The fallen star used to be a dark sun. The old kingdom was lit ultravioletly by a, by a series of giant orbs that were created by the same dwarves that built Mjolnir. Now, during the Spider Squid Wars, the Elephant got hold of those codes, and detonated them and used them as basically nuclear explosions to destroy all the cities, most of them anyway, of the Old Kingdom. Okay? One of those dark suns, at least one, was not destroyed, but its magic was depleted and it fell to earth, for lack of a better word. It fell to the ground. All right? And it has been dubbed the fallen star because that's what a dark sun is. It's an artificial sun. It's an artificial sun. And it emits the ultraviolet light. The fallen star is a depleted sun. It can be re-energized, but it requires thousands of souls to do that. And the goal of the denizens of chaos, those beings that serve a Tamaru, it is their goal to refill the fallen star and detonate it against the Great Alliance. Okay? This presumes that they have the code so that they can detonate it. Otherwise, it would be no point to refill it, because refilling it without the code would make another sun, okay, so that you could start growing trees and things like that back in the old kingdom. That's what it was at one time, because there are and were caves the size of entire states. Missouri, Ohio, even Texas was one of maybe the largest cavern that is known. It's about the size of Texas. So that's not tiny, is it? You know, there are many that are the size of cities, okay? But some of them were the entire, yes, the Great Cave of Texas. Some of them are the size of entire states. And the dark suns would rise in the morning and set in the evening on these giant caves. And you had agriculture, all kind, horticulture, all kinds of forests, and all these things would grow because of the dark suns. Okay, does all makes sense. So filling it with full of souls isn't itself a bad thing, except for whoever souls they were, and that's bad. But re-energizing it and making it into a sun isn't necessarily a very, very bad, very, very, very bad. It's still bad because those are souls you that you have um, repurposed. Because souls that go into the dark sun, souls that go into Metallica, cease to be who they were. They are flushed of all everything. They are just power sources once they enter one of those two places, Metallica or a dark sun. So now they are just energy, for lack of a better word. But with the detonation codes that repowered Fallen Star, which now becomes a dark sun, is very, very, very dangerous. All right. Now that, and then of course, while this is going on, we did have the dust bunnies, which a a chest was found in the deep road. Somebody opened it up, and somebody who has a very obviously sixth sense of humor had trapped the massive number of dust bunnies that continue to multiply inside this chest. They they escaped and attempted to eat the world because they're very hungry. Okay, they're very hungry because their bodies were constantly in motion. They were being constantly ripped apart and reformed, and so that makes you very hungry, doesn't it? Well, once the chest was closed, the dust bunnies were sealed in there again, and any dust bunnies not still in there, which there were a few captured, they're no longer hungry because they're not being constantly ripped apart. Now they are just dust weirds. That basically brings us up to date. Any questions about any of those things that we have discussed? Yep, there's not many, but there are a few. I have one, and there are, yep, I know of at least two other people who also have them. So there's probably only three. Yeah, probably Finley will probably have to approach Zach or Tarlin about studying their dust. Okay. Any questions about all the things that I have discussed, or any of the things I have discussed? Dust bunnies, fallen star, dark sun, deep roads, spider squid wars, Atal Maru, Nargarath, Illithid, Metallica, Five Queens, Black Flowers, Dread Pirate, Black Gate, Origin of Nargarath, Origin of Talmaru. I've touched on all of those things. And yes, I realize that is a lot of information. Every one of you is probably going, boom, your hair is all flying back over you, behind your head, going, I can't think of any questions because it's too much. Too much, too much, too much information. Oh no. Yeah, I get it. But, okay, the past role plays, well, past role plays are, generally speaking, they're over. They're your years and years ago over. But in some cases, if someone comes up with a way to revive that role play and it's feasible, you know, talk to me about it, and I might give you the go ahead. But generally speaking, those are closed because they're years and years and years in the past. But as we all know, sometimes the past comes back to haunt us. So it's not out of the question. Okay. Any other questions? I tried to sum up and short, concise versions, all the things, but I know that I probably hit on 10%, maybe, if that. But I try to hit all the big stuff anyway. Okay. Nothing. Yes. That is correct. If you want this knowledge, ideally, it's all here in the library. All you have to do is is go and look. Um, the wall behind uh, the left group here with that has Molly and Crew and Trinity, that wall right there with the spider behind on it, there's additional books back there. Okay, and there's a lot of the role plays are in there too. Okay, maybe all of them. I'm not sure. Ah, hey, that's actually an interesting point. Thank you for bringing that up. Anyone can be a part of any ongoing role play. Okay, and obviously you know about them OOCly, and if you know something, that gives you the opportunity to do something. So now you just take that knowledge icily by uh, meeting up with anyone. Okay, good example. Like Jalil Magister Apprentice Zylund up there, she has experienced the fallen star, and I'm sure that if anybody comes and talks to her, she will talk to you about it. And then that will open a door for you to be part of the fallen star role play. Okay? And exactly. And Magister Prince of all, uh, thank you for saying that. If you see something going out, consider it I see. Okay? Don't wait for somebody to knock on your door personally. You know, think of those notices as something that was posted in the tavern. Okay, that you went by the tavern, you saw something posted for adventurers to go down into the deep roads. Consider that exactly that way. Okay, you see somebody, hey, there's going to be a deep roads run next week on Friday at 2 o'clock. Okay, don't wait for somebody to call you directly. You know, consider that you read that when you were passing by the tavern or something. Okay, that is a role play invitation already. okay, for you to join in. You don't need to wait for somebody to directly call you. If you see it, it's there, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, excellent. Um, all right, that brings up another point. Molly. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to answer that your question in 1 second here, but I'm going to pick on Molly for just a moment. Now, Molly has been doing some work with me on Drusilla. Okay, I am going to make an IC statement as of this moment right now that she has been in touch with Drusilla, or that Drusilla has been in touch with her. Okay, so they're in a coded mind uh, touch way. So if you guys want to know stuff that Drusilla might know, then she's the person to talk to. Okay? All right. Now, the answer to the question, how do people talk to me, Iceely? Okay? Number one, you can come to the library. Anyone coming to the library and wanders the library, 99% of the time, if I'm online, I'm in my office back there. Okay? So that means if you're out wandering and you decide to pop up to the library, you can interact with the magician because he's back there. Okay. Number two, I have ravens that are always flying over every single realm, and they cannot be killed. You know, much to the chagrin of some individuals who have made attempts to do so. you know, um, they are undead, and that means you can't kill them. I'm a necromancer. And anything that they see, I see. So if you stop one and talk to him, you are talking to me. Okay? All right. And yes, that's role play. You're not really going to see ravens flying around the realms because I haven't found a way to do that. And it might be creepy, right? And the magician's not a creepy dude. Okay? I'm not spying on the world. I'm just keeping an eye on it. That is entirely different. Ah, as far as people knowing that Molly knows about Drusilla, I leave that up to her. Okay, she can. Oh, see, you guys all know now. But I see, it's going to be up to her how you know. Okay, some of you talk to her regularly, and she might have talk to you about it. Okay, but that's in her. That I'm going to leave that in her uh, purview. You know, and if she has more than one identity as Molly, I don't know the answer to that. Because in my book, if you look different, it's just a disguise. I am the magician. I can see through all these disguises. You know, whether you're shapeshifted or anything. You know, you're a projection. All those things. To me, it's all the same. Okay? That's the advantage of being the god of death. My apologies. I see your soul. Okay. Now, last call for questions. Any more questions? Because that's right. Welcome to the story. You have jumped right in the center. You didn't know it. But how about that? You kind of wonder why I've been talking to you about Drusilla, right? Well, now you know. Okay. Um, I'm gonna to bark one more time about the about being a gaffer. We do have one. I would recommend you guys find out who she is. She's a dragon. Joel Thorne, you have the best chance since you were the dragon regent. Find out if she's a fire breather. If she is, you know, definitely see if you can't get her on board doing it. Because glass weapons, glass armor are the bomb. For those of you that do not know, glass armor and glass weapons have magic resistance. Okay? Unlike any of the other things. Okay? Alright? Whereas orichalcum, it deflects magic. Okay? So it's gonna have, you know, certain amount of magic resistance, right? But it deflects it. Okay? Iron spider silk absorbs it. So it's gonna have certain amount. Okay? But glass armor itself is resistant. It's not absorbent. It's not reflective. It's resistant. Okay? So if you have a suit of glass armor, that's going to be a little, it's going to be, it's going to have some advantages. Okay? It's not, I'm not saying it's perfectly magic resistant. You know, I'm not saying that. Okay? You mages, you can still hit somebody in glass armor. It's not going to, you know, but they're going to have more protection versus you than anybody else, you know, than someone not in glass armor. Yeah, that means you might have to hit them with something different. Don't don't hit them with something that is pure magic. Okay. All right. Now, I'm with that said, I if you have a question about what I just said, you can ask it. Otherwise, I'm closing it. I'm going to close shop. Okay. Um, any questions about glass, dragon glass, and elven glass? Those two are the ones that have the most. Ah, Jalil Thorn, what I was talking about is trying to figure out which dragon that Cantino saw. Okay? Because she has a scroll that gives her the ability to be a level 3 gaffer. I don't know what dragon it is. I just Cantino gave a scroll to a dragon. Okay. To become a gaffer, a glass blower, all right, level 3. So she's already in. That means she's already a professional. Okay. Um. Yes. Solange. I can't see if you're male or female because I have too many things on my screen. My apologies. So I don't know if you're Jaluk or Jalil. But go ahead. What's your question? Jalil. Jalil Solange. What is your question? Something I might note, glass also does not interfere with casting, unlike most metals, which do. Orichalcum, a mage cannot wear orichalcum. All your spells will fail. Yes, druids can definitely use glass staff. Absolutely. Glass is excellent for magic items, or even just to hit people with. And they're not metal. Okay? So for those of you druid types that can't use metal, which there are a lot of, by the way, glass is allowed. You're most welcome. Yes, that's correct, Molly. That's good. That's good. Glass does not hamper magic. Okay? It's resistant when someone casts it at you. Okay? Even will stop a touch spell, but it will not stop you from casting, unlike orichalcum. Orichalcum will negate your spell. If you're wearing orichalcum armor, you cannot cast. You're wearing glass armor, you can still cast. Orichalcum is darn heavy. Orichalcum is the heaviest metal that we have. Okay? That's why it makes really good hammers. Yes, orichalcum armor would be super heavy. You have to be ultra strong to wear that. So it's not likely a mage is going to be trying to wear it anyway. But if you did, you couldn't cast. It would be like encasing yourself in a coffin. Okay. Any other questions on glass or calcum since it was just brought up? Yep, you are right, Molly. Oh, I can't move my arm. Mm. But hey, if you're strong enough, you can wear it. You know, you can wear orichalcum armor if you're strong enough. And since it's also pretty much heat resistant, anything less than dragonfire is not going to affect you. But heavy, yes. A mage encased in orichalcum would be very unhappy. Very, very, very unhappy. You are correct. But orichalcum is rare, you know, so you very, very rare. So if you're willing to give up that much orichalcum just to encase a mage, hey, you know, either you have a source that I'm not familiar with, or you know, you've been stealing everybody's orichalcum. Very extravagant punishment. You know, you are right. Yep, that would be a that would be an absolute mage trap. You are correct. Yes, certainly. Jill Slange asked your question. How do you get a hold of a glass staff? Excellent question. I can answer that. I can give you two answers for that. Number one, someone already has a glass staff. They got it when I introduced glass and I did some dice rolls and gave out some glass items. One of the people got a glass staff. I don't know who it was. Okay. The other way to get a glass staff is to have a gaffer make it for you. Right now, we only have one gaffer, but I encourage any player that is interested in becoming a gaffer to do so. You can get your first two you can get your first two levels of gaffer by studying the books in the library. It's a dice roll event. Any uh, any conclave member can roll for you. Every hour, you get 5% chance cumulative to to gain a level. You can only do that for the first two levels. After that, then it's all about role play. But the first two levels, novice and apprentice, you can get from studying in the library. Yes. And if you do decide to be gaffer, do drop then the clever fingers a line and tell her, hey, I'm I got my first two levels of gaffer in the library. And then she's gonna have to scramble to come up with a training program. Yes, that is correct. Jalil Air is correct. And so any conclave member in this room right now, I see Dylan Ray, Nifredel, Trinity, Malachite, every any druid can use a staff, whether it's fire, air, water, or earth. They can all use a staff. But uh, individually, and other types of weapons are more individual. But the staff is universal. Okay, and yes, Jola Air is correct. You will still have to role play with the with the lesser, with sand, and you know, in order to get up to level 3, you will have to role play with all the lesser material. I know. My apologies, everyone. I have kept you for a million years. The snail races are about to start. The next event that is going on today. I do intend on being at some of those, but I do have a busy day, and I have a client soon, so I'm not sure how many I'm going to be able to do that. Okay, snail races, $1,300. No, there is it. It's $1,300. Okay, so you got a whole hour. Okay, $1,300 snail races. Um, I do encourage you making those, and I will try to be back for that. But I will be with a client, so I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Okay, all right. With all of that said, hopefully I have answered everybody's questions, and I accomplished the mission for the day. So das and das for now.